What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and happy Independence Day. July the 4th, fun day to shoot off fireworks, celebrate the birth of our country, and of course go to the Atlanta United game and watch them very narrowly pull off a win. um, yeah, it was kind of scary at points, but for the most part, an all-around solid performance. And here's the thing: I'm not I'm not against a difficult win. I'm not against a win where it's exciting and it's back and forth and they're fighting and we're fighting. It's not like I want to go to every single game and watch the other team just roll over as we run over them time and time again. I mean, don't get me wrong, that would be awesome. But at the same time, it would take a little bit of the excitement out of it. When Walk scores that third goal to put us in the lead, and then Martinez puts one in the last minute of the game to kind of seal the win, there's something exciting about that. There's something really invigorating about, oh, we're down, but then we come back, but then they equalize, and now we're back and we win it, and just all of that going on. There is something exciting about that, and I think there is something to be said about not just a boring, not necessarily boring, but not just oh, we win easily 3-0. It's not nearly as exciting as we had to fight and pull off a 4-2 victory. Not exactly great, but it's still a lot of fun to watch. So I know that sounds sort of weird, and I hope I explained that well, but it is what it is. We gave up 2 goals, but we did put in 4, and we made it exciting. We made it a fun game to watch. So first of all, I want to go ahead and get my rant about the referees over, because I've heard that they've talked about how, okay, the refs are bad, we're trying to fix it. I've heard several people talk about it, but here's the thing. It's one thing to talk about it, it's another thing to do something about it. And from what I've seen, I haven't seen any change. And the ref tonight was just the worst I think I've seen all season. I've seen a lot of bad refs. I know I say this all the time. Oh, I've seen a lot of bad refs, but tonight was the worst. To be fair, I mean, those refs, while bad, it felt like they were just kind of, I don't know, it felt like they were just kind of fooled by the other team, or it seemed like maybe they were being a bit one-sided for the home team, or maybe they were being a bit one-sided to spite the fans that were booing them, or, it wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't, a couple of them have been bad, like the Assad red card for the elbow was pretty bad, but, those games were in the past, and it was one moment, and it didn't feel like, okay, that one moment they made a mistake, but the rest of the game was just little mistakes that most refs are probably going to make. That's been most of this season. Tonight was like, I can't even describe just how bad it was, but it feels like if you took this ref and you sat him down after this game and you said, here, watch this game that you just refereed and grade yourself, I think even he would look at this and say, you know what, I was terrible tonight. Now, I could be horribly wrong. He could be a narcissist that never thinks he's wrong about anything. But a normal human being, if they refed like he did tonight, and they looked at themselves after the game, they looked at the game they just refereed, they'd probably look and say, you know what, I deserve to get fined after this game. I deserve to receive some sort of punishment, because this was awful. The 2-footed scissor studs up jumping into a challenge. It was like everything wrong with a tackle that you could possibly do, and you give him a yellow. A freaking yellow. And then not even 2 or 3 minutes later, you've got Assad, or no, maybe it was Vialba. I can't remember who it was now. But you've got somebody going into just a simple, it was a little bit of a pullback. Nothing dangerous. They're not breaking away to goal. It was just a run down the line. They trip him up, and you give him a yellow for that. Which means you just put on the same level 2-footed, scissoring, jumping into a challenge on the same level as a pullback. You just combine those two. Both of those are worthy of a yellow card. On top of that, so many challenges were okay on one side, and then yellow card offenses on our side. Carmona goes in and pretty much gets the ball. Like, I don't even know. It may have been a foul, it may not have been, but it looked like he mostly got the ball. Maybe he caught the guy a little bit, and all of a sudden he's going 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's your yellow, and I'm like, wasn't that his first foul? Laurentowicz makes a great challenge, completely gets the ball, stops the breakaway, and he calls a foul for it. Gives him a yellow. And then on the flip side, Almiron's breaking down the line. The guy's running next to him. He slides. Almiron puts himself in the way, goes through Almiron to get the ball, and he's like, oh, he got the ball. He got man first, and then he got the ball. That's a foul. That's a yellow card because he came in from behind. But you're going to card Carmona and Laurentowicz for making pretty fair challenges, in my opinion. Now, I am a bit biased, so they could have been fouls. But even then, they didn't even seem like yellow card offenses, even if they were a foul. So I don't understand how a ref can mess up this badly. And the funny thing is, I watched the highlights to see, okay, how bad was that challenge? It was really bad. Replay showed definitely worthy of a red. Only gets a yellow. And then the guy was stupid enough to continue to go into these little challenges. And honestly, the yellow that he ended up getting was more Assad's doing. Like, you could tell Assad really played into it, you know. Like, he was kind of wrestling with him a little bit. So it was a little bit of back and forth. Honestly, I looked at the replay and I'm like, that's not worthy of a yellow. Especially not a second yellow. I mean, obviously in the moment we're all yelling, get him off the field. But to be perfectly fair, that second yellow was not worthy of a yellow. He should have already been off. But you make the mistake there, and then you make another mistake to send him off later, and then all the little stuff around the field, all the little mistakes, you know, not calling one foul and then calling another. You know, he gets pulled back, it's not a foul. Oh, he flops, that's a foul. It was ridiculous tonight. And I know I rant about the refs a lot. I get that. You can be doing something to improve it. And I'm not seeing any improvement. It's like every single week, I think it can't get worse than this, and then the next week, it gets worse. You know, this ref is even worse than last week. This ref is even worse than last week. This ref is even worse than last week. How can they not be getting any better? How can you not sit them down and let them review what they did so that way they can look back and say, all right, I've got to improve. You know, okay, I need to do better there. Okay, that's a red card challenge. I need to make sure that, you know, I watch for that. I need to make sure that I'm more strict on those challenges. Because honestly, I think after that, San Jose kind of felt like, oh, we can do whatever we want because the ref let him get away with that. And that just kind of gives them the right to, oh, we can just take him down. You know, we can go in strong. That number 23, I don't know his name, but it felt like every single time Almiron and him were battling, Almiron gets the ball away, and then it's like he goes in a little bit late and kind of hits him a little bit, whether it's upper body or whether he's sliding in and kind of niggles at him a little bit. It just felt like he was free to do whatever he wanted because the ref wasn't saying anything. You know, he probably had 5 or 6 fouls on the night, but ended up getting our players 2 or 3 yellows because he's down holding his leg, and the ref buys it every single time. So anyway, that's my rant about the referees. I'll talk about the goals really fast against us. First one, I watched it again and again, and it's really hard to tell exactly who is at the most fault. I think it's a little bit of everything. You know, I think Carmona doesn't do a good job in the midfield of sort of cutting off the play forward. And then the pass comes in. Perez is kind of on his heels a little bit, so his block of the pass, while important because it was going to be through to number 9, Hosen, I think is his name. I only know him because he was doing terrible warm-ups and then just can't shoot. So it may have been better to just let him have the ball. But anyway, he did have to block that pass, and it ends up blocking it right into the path of another guy. Parkhurst sees it a little too late, tries to return his run to block it, doesn't get to it in time, and the guy just, I mean, he put it up pretty high. Maybe Rainish could have done a little bit better with the block. So I don't know. It just seemed like a very unlucky goal, and especially so early to concede. It was very unlucky, I think. I feel like, though, watching how we started the game, it felt like we didn't really come out fully ready. You know, it didn't feel like we were 100% coming out of the gate. You know, there have been some games where it feels like we're just ready and raring to go. We're putting the other team on the back heel within the first few minutes. It felt like tonight the other team were doing that to us, and we were the ones like, oh, what are we doing? What are we doing? Because, I mean, within the first 3 minutes, it felt like they had 3 or 4 chances and ended up getting a goal on one of them. So the second goal, though, right after we scored our second, it was just, I don't know. It kind of happened after the first goal. You know, we score that first goal to equalize, and then they come back at us hard. And it's almost like we were just like, oh, we're not ready, we're not ready. And then we get lucky and clear it. Well, second goal, same thing. Oh, we're not ready, we're not ready. Cross comes in. Perez not tracking him at all. And he just has volley at the back post. Good cross, good finish, to be fair. It was a very nice goal. But it's perfectly preventable. You don't let that guy have so much space on the wing. You close down either the pass out there or Walks has got to get closer to him so he doesn't have a clean cross in. Perez, you got to track Wondolowski because he's wide open at the back post. And Rainish, while it is difficult to get across your goal, should still be getting across with enough time to put himself in between the ball and the near post because, frankly, it was a near post shot. And he was just kind of falling down because he wasn't there in time. So, I don't know, that second goal was just really frustrating, mainly because it was right after our goal. But we didn't look ready every time they kicked off. It was like they were so ready to just go at us with a ton of pace. And we were just like, oh, what do we do? What do we do? Guys, what do we do? We're panicking. So both goals I thought were preventable. First one was a bit more unlucky than the second. Second one was just poor defending all around, especially right after the goal was scored. But on to the individual performances. First of all, lineup was exactly the same. I was kind of surprised because it is so soon after our Saturday game in Columbus. I did expect there to be a few changes, so the fact that there weren't any on the field was actually kind of surprising. And considering the fact that most of them played a full 90 on Saturday and they had to play full 90 again today, I was thoroughly impressed for the most part. So, first of all, though, the one change forced upon because of injury to Can was Rainish in goal. It's hard to really fairly rate him, mainly because I don't know if this is a good performance or a bad performance or just an average performance from him. Both goals were very good shots, and it was difficult for both of them. I think the first goal he probably could have done a bit better on. But I don't know. I don't know anything about him. I don't know anything about his ability. I don't know if he's a really good keeper. If Guzan is here and Can is he here or is he here? Where is he in comparison to Can? I don't know that much. So I think we're probably going to have him for a couple more games because it's likely Guzan won't be back by the time we get to Orlando on the 21st. So he'll likely be our keeper since Can is out for 6 to 8 weeks. So I guess we'll get to know him a little bit more. Hopefully he does well. It's almost like he can sort of play with a bit of freedom. I hope that doesn't translate to laziness because you could look at it and say, oh, well, I'm not starting anyway. This is just until Guzan gets here, so whatever. Or you could look at it and say, well, you know what? I'm not the first team keeper, so if I make any mistakes, it's not really 100% on me, so I'm gonna do whatever I can. I'm gonna put myself out there and try to do the best I can. So I don't know. I hope he does take a hold of this opportunity though and say, you know what, I'm not gonna get a whole lot of time. Let's use this little bit of time that I do have to show what I'm capable of. But tonight was just fairly average. I think definitely not as good with his punts as Can is. I think Can showed recently that he can definitely get it down the field. His punts tonight were just kind of about to midfield. Into the defense, though, Walks, Anton, once again, showed that he's solid at the right back position. Mainly, he's got the physical ability to continue to be in that position and to continue to perform fairly well. I don't think he's going to be blowing up that side of the field anytime soon. I don't think he's going to be, absolutely dominating that side of the field. But he's good enough defensively, and his crosses did get better by the end of the game. And to be fair, the first half with his crosses, the only reason that they didn't really look that good was because Garza should have been back post, probably getting on a couple of them, but was cutting inside every single time. I don't really know why. I don't know maybe if he's expecting it to go inside, but he really should be backdoor anyway, just in case he gets flicked through to be there for the ball. But every single time he's cutting inside, and so it ends up going long. Well, he should be there to collect it and either head it back in or settle it and get it back across. But he's not there now. And so now it looks like a terrible cross because nobody's there. So I do think, to be fair to Anton, I do think that is part of it as well. But, the crosses did improve second half. He started getting them more into the middle where our dangerous players like Martinez and eventually Vasquez were. So I do think that did improve, but mainly the defensive side of his game was very solid. And I think that's very important. And getting a goal is always a bonus for a defender, especially one that is not, he hasn't really been in the first team and he's a fullback. To get a goal and a nice, a battle as well. You had to battle through another defender and get up over him to head it in. I mean, that's a great goal to score. So I think that'll give him probably a little bit of confidence going forward, and I hope he continues to perform fairly well. Michael Parkhurst on the right side did well. I think the reading of the game, it really, really was shown tonight, and how many times he had to sort of step in some dangerous situations. And he's shown that in the past few games as well. It's not the first time he's ever shown that he can read the game well. But I think because San Jose were so focused on, we got to sit back because we're a man down, and then looking to counter, he really had to be aware of what was going on. He had to be aware of, okay, where's the one striker that they're leaving up? Where's that one guy that's going to look to make the breaking run? Because he was called upon quite a few times to sort of shut that down and keep them from going anywhere. And first half also, when they were pushing up a little bit more and getting a bit more in the attack before they lost the man, he also had to make some really good blocks as well. So I think he's starting to lead a bit more with his actions. I think I talked about that in the last review, although it's not up yet because I have no internet. But yeah, I did talk a little bit about how he is starting to lead more with his actions, and he is starting to, I guess, progress into more of a, okay, I'm going to show how to defend, and everybody else is going to follow along. But I still think he needs to lead a bit more with speaking and talking to other defenders around him, because I don't think he does that enough. And then Leandro Perez on the other side, just really, really starting to show the weakness in his game. The passes that he's given away, the touches that he's given away. He's very good physically, and that's something that I think he's got going for him. He's a very physical player. Physically, he can get up and down. He's very quick. He's strong. But you need to be solid defensively. You need to be solid with your touch. Your passes can't go straight to an opposition player. They've got to find one of our players at least. When you're a defender especially. So that side of his game just needs a lot of improvement, and it's shown for quite a while now. But I think his youth compared to Michael, I think that's starting to show a bit more. He's younger, he's 25 or 26. So I think that youth and inexperience is showing a bit more, and it's mainly in the defensive side of his game that I think I get most frustrated. Obviously the giveaways and the bad touches aren't great, and they do lead to some difficult situations. But ultimately we have enough cover between Jeff getting back and Michael getting back that we don't really have to worry about that as much now. At first, whenever it was, we were so pushed up and looking to attack, and then we give away the ball, all of a sudden it's a one-on-one and we're freaking out. Now we've started to sort of counteract that with, we have somebody back there to help out in case that does happen, in case there is a giveaway. So now defensively you need to be better because you don't have to worry about that side of your game as much. You should be focusing more on defense. But he's still losing track of players. He's still not really marking anybody on corners or on throw-ins where it's at the side, almost like a corner. He's kind of just standing in space, and if somebody gets a run on him, he's not going to beat them to the ball because they're moving and he's not. And the Wando goal, the second one, perfect example. He's not tracking him, comes in back post, and he's beat. So that side of his game really needs to step up. And then after he gets that side down, then work on the passing, then work on the distribution from the back. But I would say overall, between those couple mistakes on both of the goals, I would say just below average for him. Greg on the left side had fairly average game, a bit more productive tonight, obviously, with some of his crosses that led to the goals. But I think defensively, he needs to, I guess, work a bit more on the one-on-one situations. He does well at times, but then there are moments where if you put somebody really quick on the wing up against Greg, I think he really struggles in those situations. He doesn't do well in one-on-ones. If a player's running at him, we've seen he doesn't really have the speed to really take on that. So I just think looking in those situations, he either needs some help from Perez to cover for him, or he he needs to work on getting his quickness up a little bit more so he can take on those people. But to be fair, I mean, there are a few times where he has to take on somebody quicker, and he has the sense to use his strength to sort of body them off the ball if they try to go past him. So he does show a bit of, I guess, the smarts to play the fullback position, but he doesn't really have the physical ability to do it, I guess, throughout the entire game. He's going to make some mistakes, and his speed and his quickness aren't up to the level that they need to be to make up for those mistakes. So that would be my only complaint about him. But as far as everything else goes, I mean, like I said, his crosses and distribution tonight were really on point. I mean, just set up a couple goals. The first one, the second one, and I think that was it as far as the assists, kind of. So, yeah, overall, good game from him. Carlos in the middle, played okay. I think, once again, gets caught sliding in a few too many times, diving into situations where you just really have to stand them up and stop them from running at the defense. Because as soon as you dive in, like I've said many times, as soon as you dive in and they're past you, now they're running at the defense, and that's hard to defend against. So I just think, needs to stay on his feet a bit more, stand them up, force them one way, not really diving in as much. That's about the only thing. As far as the distribution, though, fairly good. I don't see him giving away the ball. I don't see him making stupid decisions on the ball. So I think that's something that he does bring to us, is just whenever the ball's at his feet, I'm confident he's going to make a good pass. He's going to make the correct pass. And then, of course, Jeff, the other one, still one of my favorite players on the team. I mean, just how much effort he puts into everything. I mean, there's so many times in the second half, especially when they were just looking to counter on us. There's so many times where he's just winning the ball out of the air. One of their players has the ball, he's stepping in, and either he's winning it or he's putting them under enough pressure to where now they kind of have to be forced backwards and they can't come at us with speed anymore. He's so good at just cutting that out and working so hard to stop any sort of counterattack on us. It was incredible. I mean, talk about Miguel and Joseph and Hector and Yamil all you want. I mean, those four great attacking players. But you need a solid defense if you want to win games. I mean, that's how it is. I mean, you look at even some of the top leagues in the world. Liverpool, perfect example. They have a great attack, but no defense. And so they're getting outscored. They get a couple goals, but then the other team will get a few more, and then they'll bunker into where now Liverpool's attack doesn't even matter. That's what teams are going to start doing to us if they see we have a weak defense, but a great attack. They'll get an early goal like San Jose did today, and then they'll just bunker in and just hold us off as much as they can. And that worked for them in the first half. So you look at that and you say, well, how are we going to help our defense? Well, with a player like Jeff in, that's your help. I mean, obviously our defenders have to do better. Leandro has to do a lot better. But whenever you've got a defensive midfielder in there like Jeff, who's willing to put his body on the line, who's willing to make the challenge over and over and over again, who's willing to just stop any sort of counterattack from happening, that type of player is rare. And honestly, he's not exactly the fastest player, but he works so hard that it doesn't matter that he's not fast. It doesn't matter that some players could probably quickly turn it on and get past him. That doesn't matter because he put himself in such a position to where you tried to turn it on, but no, he's in the way now and you're not getting past him. He just won the ball off of you because you tried to be clever. It's incredible to watch. It's hard to really put it into words exactly how he does it, but he does it so effectively that it shuts down a lot of the other teams trying to work anything in the midfield, because there's Jeff, he's stepping in, he's putting pressure on somebody and forcing a mistake. So, I mean, I don't know if I've said it enough, but he is becoming one of my favorite players. I mean, just the leadership in the midfield is incredible. Up to the front four, start with the Emil first, because of those... Actually, no, I'm going to start with Hector, because of the four, I think Hector probably had the worst game tonight. And not because he was playing terrible, but because he was being pretty selfish. And I think I may have talked about this in a couple other games, the selfishness, the willingness to take a shot that's not really there, instead of laying it to somebody who has a better angle or has more open space to shoot. if he's, I don't know, maybe in practice he has these type of shots for him, cutting across the top of the box and rips a shot, and maybe in practice he's doing it consistently and getting goals. It doesn't transfer in the game, if that's the case. Because over the past few games, I've seen that situation so many times where he's top of the box, or he's in a good position to either cut it back or maybe cut the defender and then lay it off to somebody. But instead, he wants to have the shot. He wants to try to get a goal. He wants to score. When he was up top, it worked out fine because you know what? That's what you want your forward to do. But when you're the right attacking mid, you want them to be a bit less selfish with it. You want them to try to find a pass instead of having a shot from the right side. And especially because most of his shots either off target completely or just a dribble right to the keeper. So, I don't know. It just, on the ball, he looks okay. He's quick. He's got a good turn. I mean, there were a couple times he made the defenders look foolish with his turns tonight. So he's fine whenever he's on the ball, but that shot has got to stop. I mean, it's got to, either you've got to start converting those shots or you've got to stop shooting, because you don't see many other players on the team having shots like that. Even though, Miguel probably could have shots like that, you don't see him taking those shots on because he's not selfish. He's not a player who looks to try to score every time he's at the top of the box. He looks to try to play because we've got numbers forward. We've got players making runs. Hector needs to start seeing that and start to play a bit more, because I think his runs are dangerous until he has that shot. Until we're moving it around and gets to Hector. He has a shot, not a great shot. Now all of a sudden goal kick. So that would be my biggest complaint with him, but the other side of his game, the passing outside the box, the movement, and even defensive work, I think is pretty good from him tonight. So I would just say average. Yamil was also not great, but still good. I think he's one of those players, kind of reminds me of Pedro a little bit, in the I'm going to work so hard to win the ball back, and I'm going to fight until I get that ball back. And he does that very well. I mean, there's several situations where there's a player going to get the ball, and he just throws himself in front of the player, and he's strong, and he stands him up, something Pedro doesn't do very well. But he's such a I want the ball player. I'm going to win the ball. It's a one-on-one situation. I'm going to win the ball. You hardly see him back down from a challenge. And even in a situation where he's surrounded by 2 or 3 people, he's still looking to just try to hold on to the ball and keep it away from them. So much so to where they're poking it away, but his work is so hard that they poke it and he just runs back and gets it anyway. It doesn't matter, they just poked it away because he goes and gets it. So that side of his game is incredible. However, his distribution needs some work. I mean, his passes are hit and miss. I think his shooting as well needs some work. If you're going to be an attacking midfielder, you got to get your shots on target. And I can't really think of many situations where his shots were on target. But aside from that, I mean, distribution-wise, that's probably the biggest complaint for me. I think his crosses and his passes, his little 1-2s with people, I think are just so hit and miss that you expect somebody who's in that position, you expect somebody who plays 1-2s and all of that, you expect him to be a lot more solid and a lot more, I guess, effective there, more productive. He's not really productive. There are too many times where he's losing it or something along those lines. But his work rate is incredible, and I will give him that, and another average performance, I think. Probably a little bit above average for him. And then, of course, the final two, which most people are talking about because they deserve to be talked about, Miguel and Joseph. I mean, the combination play, for the most part, it was incredible. First, let's talk about Miguel, though, because once again, a situation where he gets 1 assist. And wait, he may have had 2. No, 1 assist. Yeah, he had 1 assist tonight, didn't score any goals, and still looks one of our most effective players on the field because of his movement, because of what he does on the ball, the danger that he provides to defenders. It puts them under so much pressure. And I'm watching the first half, especially when they were 11 men on the field, they felt confident enough to do this. They put 3 guys on him at all times so that whenever he got the ball, it's like converge on Miguel. Don't let him have any time. And that's the type of player he is. He draws players to him because he's such a dangerous player. And I love that. I love having a player like that. I've talked about this before, comparing him to Hazard at Chelsea. Hazard is such a dangerous player that other teams know that, and they have to put 2 or 3 guys on him at all times, or specifically have one guy man mark him, no space at all. But now that guy's being taken out of the play, which opens up space for other players to run. Miguel does the same thing for us. I mean, the players that converge on him, now all it has to take is ball gets played in, they converge, he lays it off to somebody else, now there's open space for maybe Martinez or Villalba or Assad. I don't know why I keep switching. I'm trying to use first names because, hometown team, and just, I know, little tangent. Forgive me if I use their last name. Sometimes it's easier to just say that instead of their first name, but I'm trying to use first name because this is hometown. You want to be personal with them. Anyway, but yeah, you see that convergence of defenders opens up space for other players to run, and it just looks so good. Even when he's not producing, even when he only gets 1 assist tonight, even when he doesn't get a goal tonight, it doesn't matter. He still looks so dangerous on the field that you could have he could go on like a 5-game scoring drought. It would not matter because he's doing something. He's creating something. So I love having a player like Miguel out there. I think he brings so much to us on and off the ball. And then, of course, Joseph, the super striker of the season, I think, so far. He put in an early bid for Golden Boot, then got injured, and has come back and is still scoring. Talked about the last game at Columbus. He looked a little frustrated when he came off without a goal. He looked really frustrated, kind of maybe with the coach for taking him off, but also a little bit with himself for not getting a goal. Tonight is like that frustration carried over a little bit the first half, because you could see he was very frustrated with a little bit of everything. Players not passing to him whenever he made a good run. Shots that he wasn't connecting with was frustrating him. Fans throwing the ball back on the field and stopping their play. He boots it into the second tier. So you could just see the frustration was getting to him, and that was getting me a little concerned in the first half because, I mean, when a forward is like Joseph gets frustrated, it tends to kind of blow up a little bit in their face. Either they go into a dangerous challenge on the keeper or maybe one of the defenders that gets them sent off, or they start taking random shots that are not connecting and it wastes our possession. So I was getting sort of worried that may continue going forward, into the second half. Was that going to be a problem? But it looked like maybe he calmed down a little bit. He wasn't. It was like he was working a bit more. The runs that weren't really coming off in the first half, where a bad touch or just a little bit too far for him, and the defender makes a good interception. Those little runs that weren't working in the first half, he tried them again and again and kind of wore the defense down. And then finally we started getting more crosses in to him, not to the back post, not to the far side of the field. It was toward him. It was in his area. And he just started beating players. He started beating them in the air. He started just going at it. He started giving it all he had. First goal, completely him. I mean, great cross in, but he's up over the defender, who is probably a good foot taller than he is. It doesn't matter. He's up over him, heads it straight. I mean, keeper ended up making a good save because it was back across him, but it doesn't matter because Carlos is right there to finish it off. Second goal, great run. Greg again puts in another great cross, right to him, right on his head. Boom, in the goal, upper section of the goal. I mean, just those runs they started making in the second half, it was almost like he knew to just keep making them, to keep working as hard as he could, because eventually it was going to come off. Eventually it was going to work. One of these times it was finally going to come off, because sometimes you do need a bit of luck. Sometimes you can get a bit unlucky in a game and things aren't coming off, little skips, little bad touches, maybe the ground's a little too wet tonight and it skids a little bit farther than it normally would. It doesn't matter. You keep trying, you keep going for it, and eventually it will come off, especially when you're putting that much pressure on their defense. And then the second goal that he got late on was just kind of a consolation goal, just another a brace tonight, just to kind of sort of cement the fact that he is still a goal scorer. Even if he didn't score in the last one, it doesn't matter. He's still a goal scorer. He's still capable, at any point of getting a number of goals in one game. So yeah, I think that brace for him in the second half, I think, was just a good way to cap a really hard-working night from him overall. But hopefully the next game where he doesn't score, hopefully that frustration doesn't build back up, because I think he is a great forward as long as he doesn't let it get to him whenever he doesn't do well one night. Onto the subs that came on. First one was Julian comes on for Hector. Got an assist, but I don't know. It's so hard for me to really accurately describe how I feel about Julian. I know a lot of people love him. You know, Gresselmania is something that a lot of fans love to chant whenever he's coming on. But the thing is, even though he gets assists, he gets goals because he puts himself in good situations, there's too many moments where he's just dangerous to us defensively. I'm scared to have him in. And maybe it's something where he needs to start looking to be more of a forward than a midfielder, because he just doesn't work back that well. And on top of that, his passes, his short passes, are very hit and miss. I mean, the very first thing he does when he comes on, receives it, passes it straight to one of their players in our defensive third. That happens quite a few times per game for him in particular. So, I don't know, those mistakes either need to get cut out of his game, or he needs to look to just start playing more forward. You know, just, we know you're going to stay up there, so don't even have us rely on you, because it's too scary at times. It's way too scary for him to be back there, because you never know what to expect. But as far as the assist goes, I mean, it was a good cross in, and obviously Walks did very well to get there. So, you know, another assist for him. I'm glad he is contributing. I'm glad he's getting assists and goals, but I want him to contribute a bit more on the other side of the ball, especially if you're going to be a midfielder. The other one, Kratz comes on for Carmona. I don't mind that switch at all, mainly because I think Kratz is a very hard worker, and so even though he's not one of our greatest players, I think the effort he puts in just really puts players under pressure to the point where they're not able to play freely. And sure enough, that's pretty much what he came in and did. And he also stays on his feet a bit more than Carmona does, so you know, there is that. I just called them Kratz and Carmona, didn't I? Kevin and Carlos. And then the final one was, of course, Brandon. He's definitely getting a lot more time recently, and I love that because he is so young. You want to see your young players, especially if they're doing well, you know, if they're getting goals, if they're performing well, you want to see them continue to get time. And I think he's worked his way into the subs. You know, he's very big for his age. You know, I think he's like, I want to say 6'3", maybe 6'4". I don't know exactly how tall he is, but he's tall, he's built, and he can win a header. I mean, we've seen many a time where he's beating players off, you know, up in the air, off a header, whether it's towards goal or whether it's defensively. You know, he does very well at getting up there, and he's got the ability to do it. So if he's doing it at that young of an age, you know, he's 18, if he continues to do it growing up, could be a great player for us to hold on to. So yeah, I'd love to see him get more time. I'd love to see him just continue to perform well, and hopefully he can get himself a couple goals here and there just to sort of solidify why he's playing, and, you know, not just out there because he's young, but also out there because he's producing. So all in all, I mean, like I said, it was a good game, even if it was a bit scary at times, even if we did give away 2 goals. It was still fun and exciting and energetic, and once again, another home game where we're all there, we're all chanting and cheering and, you know, behind the team. The atmosphere is great. Everything about this team just gets me really excited, and I hope we can continue to do it, because there is a danger that if results start to go against us, there is a danger that this, you know, the part of the fan base that's not exactly soccer based, you know, the ones that are just there because, oh yeah, this is hometown team, we don't know anything about soccer, you know, those fans, there is a danger that if we stop performing, they might be like, it's just another Atlanta team, you know, who cares, they perform well all season, but then they choke in the end. There's a danger that those fans might start to just kind of fade out from the games. But if we can continue to keep the emotions high, and if we can continue to, I guess, press for playoffs especially, and maybe get a cup along the way, you know, whether it's the Shield, which will be very difficult with how Chicago and Toronto are performing right now, or even, you know, just making it to playoffs, making it far into playoffs would be a lot of fun to be a part of. So I just really think that we need to continue to perform well, continue to make these home games so much fun to be a part of. The atmosphere, the energy, all great. So that way, these fans that aren't necessarily soccer fans but love to be a part of it, they'll continue to come. They'll continue to be a part of it even if they don't really understand the sport very well, because it is a great sport. It's the best sport in the world for a reason. Uh, so I'm looking forward to seeing just where we can go from here. Obviously, we've got a little bit of a layoff because of Gold Cup. We'll be back before it's completely over, though. So there is that. Still no Guzan, but it does give me some games to review for the U.S. men's national team. So look forward to doing those reviews. But that's it for me for now, so let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Who's your man of the match tonight? What were your thoughts on the game overall? And what are your thoughts coming back from the break? What do you want to see change, if anything? Let me know. We can talk about it, discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe. Feature Atlanta United reviews. I'll see you at the next game. Peace out.